Yes, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jack Farmer, and this is the Evolution of Movie Show. But I'm not alone. I'm joined by two guys with their F5s in my book. It's James Shippey and Andy Rossi. Fellas, how are you doing?
I'm doing lovely. I thought for sure you were going to call me a Helen Hunt, so I'll take F5 all day.
I was thinking, how do I pick which one each of you are in this case?
It would have been funny if you would have thought I was the Helen Hunt, right?
Yes.
Fine
James
actress.
James is more of a Helen Hunt.
I am.
Right. Yeah.
She's spunky in this movie.
That was the first thing I thought when I saw James, is that very Helen Hunt-like.
I get that sometimes. Yeah, I use it to my advantage.
Well, for people who are new to the show, let's explain how this show works. What we do is we watch movies and then we talk about them like a book club, but we call it Evolution of Movies because we always pick a movie that comes out 1 year after the last movie was made. So we started with a movie in 1990, then 91, 92. Now we're at 1996, and that means we go to 97 next week. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's talk about the here and now. Let's talk about 1996. Let me take you back to 96. We had movie theaters filled with classics like Arrival, Independence Day, and of course, award-winning Biodome. But we weren't watching any of those. We're watching what New York Times said was a fantastic roller coaster ride, Twister, a movie that IMDb describes as one where advanced storm chasers are on the brink of divorce and must join together to create an advanced weather alert system by putting themselves in the crosshairs of extremely violent tornadoes. James, I want to know, first off, had you seen this before now, and what were you thinking going into it this time around?
I saw it before, but I don't remember it. I saw bits and pieces of it. So, period.
Yeah. Much like you, I'd seen it a long time ago, and it was funny watching it this time because I feel like, probably like a lot of people, there were 4 or 5 moments that I remembered vividly, and then the rest I didn't. And then when they'd happen, I'd go, "Oh yeah, that moment happened."
Yeah. Flying cows, anybody?
Yeah.
Flying cows. Yeah, everyone remembers that.
When that happened, I was very much like, "Oh, it's the cow moment." I remember this being a big deal because it was like, again, this was the year that it felt like special effects were really starting to come into every single movie in the theaters. And you can see it with movies like Independence Day, obviously.
And Biodome.
A classic.
Yeah.
Just such a well-made movie.
We'll go down in the annals of film history.
I remember, I feel like this is the movie that taught the world what an F5 really is, though. Because I didn't know what it was before this, but now it feels like everyone knows what an F5 is. It's a big tornado.
Mm-hmm.
Andy, you picked the movie. Tell me about it.
This movie definitely has a lot of great CGI moments and the effects to me still hold up pretty well. Like the tornadoes look pretty great, but I don't remember there being such a lack of plot when I first saw it. I think because I was pretty young and it was just like tornadoes, more tornadoes, then another tornado. And each time we see a tornado, they get bigger and more ferocious. And I think that was super fun to watch. The sound in this movie is really good. Like whatever they did to make the tornado sounds, it's kind of terrifying. But yeah, the lack of a plot. It was written by Michael Crichton, who wrote everything, Jurassic Park. I think he created ER, Congo, maybe. I know he's written a lot of stuff.
He did.
And like I saw that, I think they paid him like $2 million to write this. And I'm like, this was what he came up with for a plot. However, a plot for a tornado movie, I don't know. I guess you don't really need one. It's like, let's just show some tornadoes.
That'd be so funny if you see a script and it's like, they get in the truck, insert special effects scene. They talk about the tornado, insert special effects scene. It's like 1 page long. It's 1 paragraph, which is insert special effects scene over and over and over.
Could have been.
And it would have worked, I guess. But this was a fun one. It was fun to go back and watch, at least from a historical perspective. What I've said before about this show, something I love about it is going to the movies. you do see such a progression in 90s style, in again the growth of special effects and what they're able to do there. And you can feel the vibe changing in the movies of what the movie going audience was looking for. And you could definitely see this coming out of other movies we've watched going before this as well. I thought that was really cool.
And it was great to see Bill Paxton and Philip Seymour Hoffman. Kind of sad, actually, but those guys are both great.
Yeah, and we'll definitely talk about those two. But before we get into the show and before we get into all the other stuff, I just want to take a quick moment to thank everyone for watching the show or listening to the show, whether you check it out on YouTube or on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, or any of those other places. Thank you so much. Please do us a favor. Please hit that like button, leave a 5-star review, leave a comment. Those things, I know they're a pain to do, but they're so helpful and valuable to us. So we would very much appreciate it. That said, the ad out of the way, folks, are you ready to twist and shout? So part 1, for science, for money, for love. We get some incredible special effects showing the title of the movie as a storm stirs things up on a farm in Oklahoma in 1969. The family waits until the last possible second to get into the storm cellar, and their dog, Toby, almost got taken away. And I swear to God, if anything happened to that dog, I was turning this movie off. But it was just her human father that was murdered, so I was okay with it. It's now modern day, and Helen Hunt is all grown up, and she's like the weather's version of Batman, trying to stop tornadoes everywhere because one killed her dad. But she's joined by Ferris Bueller's friend, Capote, the guy from under the stairs. It's a connected universe and more. It's a who's who of that guy and that thing all coming together to form the Weather Avengers. Hudson from Aliens shows up and wants Helen Hunt to sign some divorce papers, but she just can't let him go. So she tells him about Dorothy and how that's ready to go. What's Dorothy, you ask? It's a contraption that Hudson built, but Helen Hunt was going to use and take all the credit for. It sends plastic balls into the air and will allow them to study tornadoes and increase warning times before dropping the plastic balls all over the countryside. The Dread Pirate Robert shows up with a Dorothy of his own, which shocks Helen Hunt and Hudson, even though they just gave a speech about how he has better technology, because, of course, he's in it for the money, not the science.
I love that line.
Eventually, they track down Dread Pirate Roberts, and he's giving a science symposium and explaining how his equipment works to strangers at a gas station before the two scuffle. And we find out Roberts needs to follow Hudson to find the Twister because he never had Hudson's instincts. James, let's start with you. This is the setup to the movie. We know that there's tension amongst what we'll call the good guys, and they have a guy who's just better funded trying to do the same things.
I mean, he was such a bad guy with his black, SUVs. They're always like in unison, like they were,
Right.
I thought that was pretty funny. Look, can we talk about the opening teaser with the dad and the mom and the baby?
Yeah.
Going into, I guess their bunker. The dad's like, I can't hold it. It's too strong. He's like looking at the camera. And then he gets sucked up into the thing. And I was like, oh, golly. Well, at least the dog was safe, right?
Yes.
He was, if he didn't try to just hold that latch, he would have been fine. Because they just like kind of were like 6 feet away and they just like kind of cowered and they were all fine. But he was trying to like hold down this thing.
Yeah.
And man, that thing really sucks him out.
I mean, he was gone. I don't think he made it.
Gone like
I don't
that.
think he made it. I
don't think so.
So I mean, obviously they try and let us know how bad the Twister is. Look, this movie, as you said, they're not really too concerned with plot, although they get straight to it. I appreciate that. Paxton is now a weatherman, which is looked down upon. I mean, in any other normal society, say, oh, that's pretty good. That's a nice gig. But, he's not. It's like he's sold out, basically. So I thought that was fascinating. And look, he comes to get his divorce papers. We don't even know why he's gotten divorced from, what is it, Joe, I guess, or Helen Hunt's character. They obviously really like each other still. They're still in love. But he's got his new pristine fiance, Jamie Gertz.
Yes.
Who, poor Jamie Gertz. I mean, Can we talk
Yeah.
about her for a second? I mean, she's engaged to a guy. She's was she a sex therapist or
Yeah, reproductive therapist.
yeah, reproductive therapist. So she's there for a lot of comedy. But I mean, she comes there with the ex. I turned to my wife. I was like, "Is this cool?" And she's like, "No way. I wouldn't let
No.
you come near." Like, so it's just funny to me. He's coming back to this ex to get her to sign divorce papers. He seems very like determined, and then they're like, "Oh, a tornado's coming." He's like, "Okay, well, let's go." You know, like
Yeah, and has no
no,
regard for her really. Like
yeah. After
at
that
one
point,
point, she's riding with Dusty, and then he doesn't care.
he has
Yeah.
he has no regard for her. She's in another car. He's with his ex-wife, spending more
Yeah.
time, and for some reason throughout the whole film, their radio is up and everyone can hear their conversations. And I'll
Right.
just leave it at that because they're having a lot of intimate conversations about their past and their present and future. You know, I don't know. I found that fascinating. I didn't remember that about the movie. And we have twisters, of course. So
Yeah, one thing you mentioned, they get right into it. I looked up the director of this movie after it was over, and it was the same director of movies like Speed. So it makes total sense that this is a movie that just gets right into it and gets
Yeah.
right into the action, because that's kind of, I guess, the bread and butter. So, but Andy, you talked a bit about Philip Seymour Hoffman and Bill Paxton. As mentioned, this was one of those movies, if you find yourself always saying to yourself, like, what movie is that guy in? This movie drove you nuts, because just about every person is one of those guys that you're like, what movie are they in? I mean, obviously Philip Seymour Hoffman did a lot, but yeah, like everyone had been in something else or that they were known for before this movie or after this movie.
Yeah, even James is mentioning the girlfriend. I kept thinking of her from Seinfeld when she's like, "I can't spare a square. There's not a square to spare." When she's in the bathroom.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then Roach from People Under the Stairs was in there, and like
Yeah.
as you
Yes.
mentioned, Cameron from Ferris Bueller. Yeah, they really just took like all the people that are like, "I've seen these people. I've seen this person. I think I've seen this person," and they just brought them all in, had them all fill in as their. I like how you said the was it the storm chasing Avengers?
They all come together for this big moment.
And how much money? I'm not a storm chaser, but how much money is in storm chasing? I felt like James said, Paxton's character was a weatherman. I feel like what a great gig. I mean, you just sit in a studio, air conditioned, and you're just like, you look at a green screen, storm front's coming in. There's no danger. With this, I mean, they could get sucked up like poor Helen Hunt's dad. And then, I don't know, is there a lot of money in chasing down a tornado? And because they have a pretty big team. So if they get like some money thrown towards them, they got to disperse it. It's like a big band. They got to give it to everybody. And all those people, did you notice? Pretty much all of them drive their own car. And I kept thinking, I'm like, wouldn't it be better if they all just had like a big van together? But I'm like, they're wasting gas. They're all just in the car together. That's a lot of different car insurance payments. Probably a lot. You got to probably pay a lot of car insurance. I mean, cars are getting blown up and trucks are flying into tornadoes.
And very few of these vehicles, by the way, look like they were built for chasing storms. One of them was in like a station wagon. One of them had a camper on the back, which had a moment where it looked like it almost fell off when he took a sharp turn. I was thinking, a tornado is just going to suck that right up. What are you doing with that on the back of your truck? By the way, speaking of people in this movie, I didn't realize till the very end, and I saw the credits, Jake Busey was in this movie too.
Really?
Yeah, he was the
I don't
one with
think
the
I caught it.
glasses.
I saw that in the credits too. When you say the one, hold on, what does that mean? Like, who was he again? I didn't.
He was in the glasses. And I think he was listening to classical music when they were all driving around with their music playing. He only had a few spots. He was the one that said "Finger of God."
So he was part of the crew.
Yeah.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. Yeah,
I
I
didn't
saw
catch
his name
that.
too, and I was like, oh, maybe he was one of the people at the drive-in or something. But
I want to take a quick moment though and mention just real quick, Philip Seymour Hoffman. I was watching this movie, and I don't think anyone would have ever guessed he would have went on to become this super well respected, amazing actor, and not a. Because at that moment in this movie, because I think this was probably one of his first big movies, if not the first big movie. I think you'd be watching this going, oh, he's going to be a Jack Black kind of guy with his career.
Yeah.
Not like one of the most well-respected, amazing performers around, you know?
Very true. Yeah, he's kind of
Hoffman.
a maniac in this.
Hoffman, for me, he's one of my favorites. He made the movie for me.
Mhm.
I mean, as soon as he comes out, he's spitting game. I think he's spitting game to the Jamie Gertz character.
I thought
He's
they were going to
liking
end
her.
up together, actually.
That's what I was
Yeah.
hoping. I mean, anytime you saw he was next to her, he's holding her hand. He's like, my favorite line from him, the suck zone. You know?
Yes.
like it was foreplay to him. Like he was the perfect microcosm of that team of Avengers. He was really in it. He was passionate. In a film, you need characters to be like passionate or obsessed about something, right? Like that's like a very basic thing you can have. So obviously Helen Hunt, she's the leader of that group. She's obsessed with tornadoes, and the rest of the group are dedicated and passionate as well. He's just insane. Every time he comes on, I don't know what kind of, I don't know what he's doing on his spare time, but he's just like a ball of energy. He's always like, he's Jack Black before Jack Black, pretty much.
Yes.
And
basically.
yeah, does he really have like, because I kept laughing at Bill Paxton. He's like the tornado whisperer. Do you remember that scene where they pull off at, like Jack was talking about, the gas station? He's got his hands in the dirt and he's just like playing with the dirt. And I'm like, what is he senses the tornadoes close. He's just feeling it in his fingers. But it seems like everybody kind of has like a role. Like, oh, this is kind of like the scientist person. This person's in charge of, I don't know, delivering pizzas. I don't know. Some people, I'm like, I don't know what they're doing. But Philip Seymour Hoffman, I don't really know what he's there for, but he does make me happy. And he's almost kind of like the cheerleader. He's just like, gives you that extra confidence. Like, yeah. It's like, I must be doing a great job because Dusty is telling me I am. He's just,
we all need a Dusty, in our crew.
Yeah,
I was thinking all these people are going to be replaced by technology very soon. The whole time I was watching this, because the one guy from Ferris Bueller, it seemed like his whole job was to navigate and like find roads. And I was well, GPS is like 2 years out, so this guy's got a problem.
Yeah. And I think was Roach his kind of assistant? So was there two guys on the maps?
Yeah, there's like two guys that were about to be out of work very soon. And maybe find something safer. I don't know. I liked also though that the bad guy would
Carrie
stop
Elwes.
and he would just stop and tell whoever wanted to listen about tornado science. And like I'm thinking, if I was at a gas station and some dude was like, "This is Dorothy, it manages tornadoes," I'd be like, "Oh my god, this guy's crazy. Thanks, fella. I don't have any change," and like I'd leave.
Like, can we talk about Dorothy for a second? Like, I know this was 1996, but didn't it just look like, I feel like I could have made that thing. It was like pretty much just like a cylinder, and like it kept falling down. It just didn't seem very high tech technology.
With little plastic spheres. I mean, and as you said, it looks like something from like the 80s, or it made me think of that 80s film, The Explorers.
They don't really think it through. Like, so they throw these plastic balls into the air, like, and they spin around, but then like, oh, thanks, countryside, that's gonna get rained plastic balls all over it from when it's done. Like, imagine you're trying to like grow your crops and you've got all these plastic little balls falling all over your fields and just dropping all over the place. Like, thanks, I'll pick that up for you guys. Thanks, I appreciate it. It's like someone who shoots off confetti in your house and it's like, oh, bye.
That'll take 2 years to clean.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for
and every time they had it, I noticed like the whole, they got a big crew, yet it was Bill Paxton and Helen Hunt, like all by themselves all the time, trying to get this big ass thing off the truck. And I'm just like, they could use a hand. Dusty could be out there pulling it. Like every time it was just the two of them, and they messed up every single time until the end where they just let it go in the truck. And I'm just like, nobody else volunteered, like, hey, I'll help you get Dorothy off the truck. It's only two of you. That thing seems heavy as shit. But
well, let's get into that part. Let's get into the next part of the movie. Nature is a cruel mother. The Bloods and the Crips of the tornado science world go after a tornado, and Hudson and Helen Hunt argue the whole time while everyone listens. They get in the path of a tornado, and right when they need to do the one thing they came there to do, release the balls, they decide it's better to hide. While the tornado is strong enough to throw their car, it wasn't strong enough to make them let go of each other and the bridge. The truck is smashed and their balls are everywhere, but Capote is celebrating like he won the Super Bowl. And now they're in Hudson's truck and they're chasing a cluster of tornadoes where they see a cow, then they see the cow again. And then once more, they don't use Dorothy. So the gang decides to ransack Helen Hunt's aunt's house like they're all a bunch of high schoolers after a baseball game. And again, they're celebrating like they did something while Hudson has his shirt unbuttoned down to his zipper. And it was at this point I realized that they decided that this group celebrates tornadoes a lot for a group whose leader also had their dad killed by one. Another tornado shows up, and geez, why would anyone live here? In any case, now it's hailing. Helen Hunt is telling Hudson they're getting hit by debris while he's actually outside of the truck personally being hit by debris. And Hudson isn't able to set up Dorothy in time because apparently you've got to flip 75 switches, type in a secret password, and solve a Rubik's Cube to get that thing open. The tornado sends a tree to knock down Dorothy, and the whole thing is a failure. But again, everyone hears Helen Hunt and Hudson argue as Hudson says to Helen Hunt, "It's over, man, game over." But this time, Hudson's sex therapist fiance hears it, and she can just tell they want to do it.
She knows.
This is where things get really bad as the tornado comes back for revenge and wrecks movie night. Wrecks the motel, says, "I'm sorry, did I break your concentration?" And then goes to Meg's house because it's personal now, and it wrecks her place too. Helen signs the divorce papers, and the sex therapist calls it quits. So Hudson lost his wife, his fiance, the same day a tornado hits, and if that's not a country song, I don't know what is. All while Meg tells Helen, "I wish there was more of a warning," just twisting the knife and reminding her why she does what she does. Andy, this is that part of the movie where things are looking good, and then suddenly they look really bad, and hope is being lost. Kind of walk us through what you're thinking as we get through the dark period of the movie.
Couple things. The drive-in I thought was really cool, like to see that tornado come in and just mess up that theater. And I think The Shining's playing. I don't know why did this seem like a good choice of a movie playing on the screen. I was confused during that part though. It seemed like they found like a bunker very quickly with a lot of space. Like we have a drive-in movie back in Chicago, and I guarantee there's no bunker there. We would all be dead.
Right.
Did I miss something? How did they find that so fast? It was just like, all right, everybody, let's go to this bunker that has plenty of space for everybody. We'll all be safe. Like,
no, I don't know. You're right. Because every drive-in I've ever been to is literally just like a flat dirt patch with a giant screen.
Yeah, they seem very fortunate that they were at that place with plenty of room downstairs. But anyhow, besides that, so Jamie Gertz leaves, and I thought for sure she was going to go off with Dusty. I'm like, Dusty's going to follow her, and here's the sequel. But she leaves, and then like I was kind of thinking they got there using Bill Paxton's truck. She just leaves. This was before Uber, unless Esmeralda, the taxi driver, was waiting for her. How did she get home? Like, she just like walks off. No one seems to like say like, "Hey, you need a ride," or where is she now? She's definitely not where they started. So I was very confused on how she made it back. But I do think like all this tornado stuff that's been going on, I said to myself, I'm like, this seems like a fun like amusement park ride, like just seeing all these twisters. And little did I know, somebody already thought of that, and it was a ride in Florida. They had like a twister. It was either at Universal Studios or one of those places, and they had a twister ride, but I guess it's discontinued. So I was going to surprise you guys and fly you guys all out there and go on the twister ride, but unfortunately it's all done. It's already discontinued.
You can make it up to us later.
Okay.
It's funny you mentioned that. Now that you said that, that's the thing I kept saying as I watched this movie. It's like, oh, this would be a great like ride as a kid. And now I remember I did go to Disney World. My dad took me and the family to Disney World that year, if I'm not mistaken. And I remember doing the Twister.
Oh, nice.
Like the Twister ride. Yeah, it's like
how was it?
Ride / it was fun. It was fun. I was really into it. It was cool.
Yeah, watching this though, it's like tornado after tornado after tornado. And the whole time I'm thinking, like I said, why would anyone live here? There's just tornadoes constantly. This seems like a horrible place to live. Like, why would you build a giant, like, 3-story home and a barn and all this other stuff when, like, you get 7 tornadoes a day? This just seems insane that that's happening.
Yeah, I don't know. It's when you say that, you make me think of some of the lines that Hoffman said. Remember, he's like imminent ruinage, or was it food, and they were going to Aunt Meg's house.
Oh yeah.
And then my other favorite line of his is after the truck goes kablooey, right, and inside of the twister, Hoffman turns to Jamie Gertz and he's like, you just missed the truck. It's awesome. Like, this is fun for these guys, and as you said, the whole thing with Aunt Meg, that's to give us a little backstory. And you find it funny because Helen Hunt's taking her shower there, and and then Bill Paxton comes out, and I remember my wife turned me, she's like, yeah, it's like, what's with his shirt? Because his shirt was all like half open, like he's trying to be sexy while having
well, he was.
Yeah. And all the steaks. I know she says she has some cows, but man, I mean, steaks take a while to cook.
She had cows.
Yeah, she had. Yeah, past tense. I mean, but I don't know. Maybe she had pre-seasoned these. Maybe she cooked them in the oven. I mean, there was at least like 12 people in there.
Yeah.
Did they even give her a heads up either? She just had them ready to go.
Yeah, it's not like she was serving hot dogs or burgers.
Yeah,
serving steak and eggs,
burgers,
or steak and mashed potatoes.
I was thinking the whole time, much to the points you guys have made already, though, is like, if I brought my girlfriend with me to my ex's aunt's house and then left her alone while I go take a shower with all my friends and my ex and my ex's aunt, that would be, I would get such a talking to after that moment.
That'd be it.
It just wouldn't happen. Most women would not go for that. And even her being a therapist, maybe she's just game, and I get it, but they literally were out there just to give divorce papers. And I'm sorry, him being a weatherman, shouldn't he have known all these tornadoes were going to hit that day? Like, maybe it's like, well, maybe we'll go give her the papers. No, not today, sweetheart. Maybe we'll wait a few days. We'll wait until the weekend. Weather's not looking too good today.
That's a great point.
Twin sisters. I mean, look, after the first few tornadoes, at this point, I was like, okay, I get it. They're tornadoes. At this point, I wish there were sharks inside of them. That's what I was waiting for, to give me a little something.
It kind of reminded me of like a monster movie. Like each time, like in Godzilla, he like has to fight these different monsters. Mm-hmm. Every tornado seemed like a different monster they had to beat. It's like, oh, here's the twin sister one. Oh, here, and then when they get to the F5 one, here's the one that rips the movie theater, and they all kind of look a little different. But I kept thinking they were like monsters,
and they had like a vengeance kind of thing to them. Like, oh, you thought that. Oh, you're trying to solve us. We're going to show you. It's like they had a personality, like they were coming for them, which I found kind of interesting.
Especially that one that gets, I don't think we're there yet, but Carrie Elways and his team of black SUVs.
That's a good one. That one's pretty hardcore.
Well, let's chat about it. Let's get to the final part of the movie, the part I call the ending will blow you away. Helen Hunt realizes that the thing their little balls were missing were razor sharp metal blades. They cut up some metal Pepsi cans, and now their litter balls are now murder balls that will fly through the air at hundreds of miles an hour with sharp points on them. In what's starting to feel a little like Final Destination, the tornado shoots trees, exploding trucks, and even houses at our heroes as they try to achieve their science. Dread Pirate Roberts gets carried off to Oz, and Hudson and Helen Hunt cruise control Dorothy into the Twister before realizing, oh yeah, they don't stop tornadoes, they just measure them. So now Mother Nature is pissed and starts throwing all the debris it can find at them and chases them across the farm before they tie themselves to a pipe, ride the eye of the storm, and beat Mother Nature, proving to us climate change isn't really all that scary. We've seen, as you guys have said, the movie just kind of continues to escalate the size of the tornadoes, continues to escalate the destruction. And this is the big one. This is the F5. At one point, the driver for Carrie says, the base of that thing must be a mile wide. And when they were talking about the size of the base, I think we all said that's what she said. But and then, of course, this is where, as you guys mentioned, his team doesn't make it. James, this is the end of the movie. After seeing so many tornadoes, so many failed Dorothy attempts, did you feel like, yay, they got the win? How did you feel with this at the end of the movie?
Well, it's funny with that one scene with the petroleum truck. That was probably the best scene of tension in the story. I think they had driven forward, and then like his pickup got stuck on like a tree stump or something like that. It was really crazy. Look, these people are insane. Okay, they're insane. Let me get this straight. My job is to go try and get as close as possible to a tornado, put some, a thing of Pepsi cans in it, kind of watch it, and then like book. That's look. I'll tell you this about this F5 storm. That storm had girth. Okay, it had so much girth. And everyone saw that it was going to be an issue. The one guy driving with Carrie Elwes is like, maybe we should turn around. And he's like, shut your mouth and keep driving. It's like, come on, really? Like, what is this? I mean, you can see it coming from a mile away. The irony is that the petroleum truck, which was careening at them, actually helped them get not stuck, like help their car get off of the tree branch, and then it explodes to high heaven like 10 seconds later, and they escape that explosion. I don't know. I mean, these poor people, as you said, all this debris coming at them. I don't know the gist of tornadoes. I don't know how they work. Thankfully, I didn't grow up in the heartland or wherever you call this, but man, if debris is just kind of coming and going like that, why do it? Why stay there? I mean, I know the same argument you made, like living in Florida and hurricanes, but at least in Florida, you got Miami, you got J-Lo,
right.
You know what I mean? You got
Pitbull, Mr. Worldwide.
Pitbull, exactly. You got some of these things. So yeah, you'll put up with a hurricane or two when you got those kind of things.
And James, you mentioned the debris. They drive the truck through a house, and I think Bill Paxton says like, I guess we're going in, and he goes right through a house. And then they're running from the tornado. Somehow they got Kevin Costner from Bodyguard Speed, and they're outrunning a tornado in a cornfield, which is very hard to run through, but they're beating the tornado. There's debris everywhere, just flying at them. No, they don't have one cut. Nobody has a cut. Like it never got them. And I was just like, does Paxton have some kind of like protective shield, some force field?
What about Aunt Meg? I mean, can we just unpack that? Her house is going to, I mean, it's about to be ruined, right? Imminent ruinage, as our guy Hoffman says. She doesn't look that bad. When they get her out of the bottom, I don't know, she was like in the lower third of the house. She was below the ground, and she was fine. And she had a little blood caked up on her forehead, but she was like ready to cook more steaks. The dog had nothing on him. The dog looked pristine, as if he had just came from like the groomer.
Yeah, I realized watching this movie, I cared so much more about all the animals than any of the people.
Oh, for sure.
Like when they heard the dog, I was like, again, because at the beginning with Toby, I was like, this dog better not get taken away.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the dog later with Meg, I was like, they hear the dog, like, he better be okay. He better be okay.
Yeah,
the ant, it's like, man,
she could
the dog, it's like, you
better save him, Bill Paxton. You better save that dog. You better go back in that house and risk your life for that dog, which is true. We all have animals.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but like, yeah, my heart, like when the driver got impaled. By the way, it should have been Carrie that got impaled, not the driver.
Yeah.
The driver's like, hey, you know what? Hudson's not that bad of a guy. We should listen to him. And then as Dread Pirate Roberts is just like, whatever, I'm off to Oz. Here we go.
that guy.
That was pretty gruesome the way
It
he got
was.
it. I mean, you saw it coming. He's like, "Uh-oh." I think he even said "uh-oh" or one of those type things. And that thing just, man, impaled him as if he was the bad guy. You were so right, Jack.
He should
It
have
should have
done
been
the
Cary
driver
Ellis.
should have done one of those things that we see in a lot of action movies where they just open the door and just roll out of the car. Like once Robin Hood Men in Tights was talking all that smack, I'd be like, well, I'm out of here, and just fly out of there.
It was interesting how it seemed like the wind also was very selective in what it affected. Like they were running next to the fence as it was pulling the fence up out of the ground, but they weren't getting pushed around or jostled whatsoever. Or the wind near the hurricane was strong enough to blow the house around, but the truck was driving just clear and straight on that road. No issues.
And that one house wasn't even touched at all. It was like that ending is so funny because they go into that one barn and there's just like all this crazy stuff hanging, like all this sharp objects. And I'm glad they got out of there because, like in a scary movie, they would have stayed in there.
No, thank you. With the sharp objects, I'm like, oh, you're really trying to. I mean, it's everything. It's pitchforks. It's like machetes. You know, at one point I thought I was gonna see like an AK-47 with like a string on the trigger. You know, like it was all kind of danger, and everything was coming to the little area. Like everything was coming specifically to like the area they were in, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
You know, I'm getting my bunkers mixed up because their bunker there was always like a car careening right for the bunker. You know, the drive-in the screen coming right for the bunker, right where they are.
I want to circle back too to how they were all celebrating at the end. You know, the Helen Hunt and Hudson, Bill Paxton, his name is, but they're like kissing and everyone's jumping around cheering and they're happy. And I'm thinking that's kind of mean to like cheer the fact that this woman that you were hanging out with all day, by the way, is now being like losing her man. But also they're all cheering and clapping about this tornado that just destroyed the lives of everyone around them.
The aunt's house is destroyed.
Yeah, I'm trying to imagine if that happened to you, like your house is destroyed, everything you know is gone, maybe a loved one has been taken away and killed. Someone that they worked with was literally just murdered, even though they didn't get along, was murdered. Imagine you're one of those people, you're there and you see that and they're like, yeah, woo, cool.
Look, they're kissing.
I'd be like, I'd beat them all up. What are you doing? My life was destroyed and you're celebrating? Like, what the hell? That's rude.
They got Dorothy into the tornado. That's all that matters. That is all they are there for. They are functioning there to support Helen Hunt and Bill getting back together. First, it's funny you say that. What happens now? That's what I'm wondering. Like, is Bill still going to take this weatherman job? Is he putting in his 2 weeks notice? And he's like, screw this weatherman job with benefits. You know, and
in this cush office.
In his cush office, I'm going to go back to living on the land with my ex-wife / now new wife again. What happens now? They've achieved their ultimate goal. Now what?
It's a great question, James, because I'm just wondering too, like the longevity of storm chasing. A weatherman, Dallas Raines, shout out. He's got to be 65, 70, and he's still killing it in the weather game. But storm chasers, I'm thinking if you're getting a little older, it's a little difficult to run from a tornado when you're taking Cialis.
Cialis, look at it, Alice. See it?
Although
Cialis.
Great commercial, they're like running past the tornado because they're on Cialis.
Nice.
Run,
They're
run.
getting ready.
My fibromyalgia
Run to the bedroom.
up. I can't do it.
My fibromyalgia. Well, no, in the sequel, that's good. My fibromyalgia is acting up. But whatever that medicine is, it helps you outrun a tornado. That's its selling point.
Yeah.
Right? You know. Right?
But yeah, James, you nailed it. Like, I didn't realize how much this movie really just didn't have a plot. They literally just repeatedly try to do the same thing over and over to increasingly large tornadoes. And it's funny because if they had just gotten out and opened up Dorothy in the first tornado, this whole movie wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, that's true.
Even though it was right there the whole time. By the way, who didn't think through how this Dorothy process would work? Like I said, he had to flip like 50 switches to open it up. Why didn't you just have a little like cord that ran into the cab of the truck with a button you press?
Or at least have more people like, hey guys, this is heavy. Let's all like be in this truck together and we'll all muscle it out. No,
I gotta bring my station wagon.
There's no logic. And there's another point. As I say, I keep coming back to the CB unit radio they had. At one point, they're outside of the truck. They got to at least be 15 feet clear of it. I mean, there's a tornado in the background, but everyone else, including his fiance and Hoffman and all of them, can hear their conversation as clear as day, as if you and us are talking right now. And they're hearing everything. He's talking about, you've got everything. You've got me, I was like, dude, you're about to get married to somebody else. Was it that easy?
Right. I mean, when you're Bill Paxton, you take everything you want, I guess.
I guess. I mean, I really wish Hudson was in this movie. Could you imagine? But it would have been a short film because you'd have been like, you can count me out.
Yeah. No, thank you. I was telling my girlfriend, I was like, saying if you ever brought me along on this ride with one of your exes, I wouldn't be happy about it. And she's like, Jack, you would just say, I'm just going to stay home, have fun. I was like, that's probably what I would have done.
Yeah. I mean, why didn't she just do that? He's like, yeah, I'm going to go drive to wherever, Oklahoma, and get her to sign the papers. She should have just been like, okay.
Yeah. Like, why would she go? Because it's also not like there's a whole lot to do in Oklahoma. It's not like they were going to a Miami, as mentioned, where it's like, oh, I'll go with you. We'll make a trip out of it. Like whoever is like, yeah, I'm going to go to Oklahoma. Let's make a trip out of it. Wakiti, or what was the name of the city?
Wakita.
Wakita. Okay.
Yeah.
By the way, Meg has a statue that's like a tribute to tornadoes. Again, kind of callous for someone who is related to someone who was killed by one.
Not only killed, I'm so sorry that this sounds insensitive, but he flies the fuck out of there. like, I mean, just imagine that poor little girl, just like this daddy. Boom.
Hold on, let's just be clear. And look, I'm no rogue scholar here. Is that her dad that gets sucked in the beginning of the movie?
I believe so.
Yeah, okay, because the only thing is we didn't get any super after that, like, 30 years later, like I that's why I didn't really put two and two together, but that makes more sense. But I mean, where'd her mom go? I mean, where's her mom?
We never even, I thought when they went to the house, I thought that was the mom. But they're like, no, that's the aunt.
The aunt.
I had the same question. Yeah. I'm like, well, what happened to mom?
For a group of scientists, they sure don't seem like they knew what they were. They didn't think through a whole lot of stuff in this. Because even there was a point, too, where they said they're telling stories during lunch or dinner or whatever. And they were like, Bill Paxton, one time, he just threw a bottle at a tornado and it sucked it right up. And I was thinking, well, why don't you just get some kind of slingshot thing and just start shooting these balls at the tornado? Why are you driving into it? Like, you can clearly just throw the things at it and it's going to suck it up.
Yeah.
Why are you driving your entire truck into it? Why are you trying to like sit in the middle of it?
Bring the 500-pound cylinder out of the truck.
Right. That a tree knocks over every single time. There was also a moment, because did you guys catch this? And we'll wrap up in a second, but this was one of those, I think, a continuity mistake where the point that James, you were talking about, where the truck is stuck on a log and then the bigger truck comes and like knocks it off and frees it. During that scene, Dorothy got knocked over and everything, like all the balls fell out. But then they go chase the storm again and suddenly Dorothy's in the back and all the balls are back in it.
If I'm not mistaken, and it's a good question, I have a feeling they made two Dorothys. They had a backup Dorothy already in the trunk. So, just in case that one didn't work, we've got a backup one, which is kind of smart because obviously they don't ever work. And these things come in threes, and you knew it wasn't going to work. And she's like, yes, it's going to work. She says it, right? Like, we're going to do it this time. You knew it wasn't going to work. Like, they were going to fail.
Always ruining the plan.
Yeah.
Well, let's wrap this one up. But before we close out, Andy, overall thoughts on the movie, and do you have a 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon for us?
Of course I do. Overall thoughts. I mean, I think I was pleasantly surprised at the technology. I thought the tornado still looked really good. I was actually thinking to myself, I wonder how they shot it, because they have to do it practically when they're like driving the truck and stuff. And it kind of, there's some parts where you kind of look and it's like, oh, it looks like it was like a kind of a nice day if they do like a quick wide and you don't see like the tornado. So they had to kind of, I think, use the practical effect of actually driving the truck on that day and then use the CGI of like the tornado and stuff. But I thought it looked really good, like how the tornado rips through the movie theater, and the F5 is crazy. So I enjoyed it. But yeah, definitely, like looking back, you're like, it could have done with like a nicer plot. And you know, like I said before, Philip Seymour Hoffman was great, and seeing Paxton, he was great. So I enjoyed it. And yeah, for the Kevin Bacon trivia, I could go easy here, guys. I could go Bill Paxton was in Apollo 13 with Kevin Bacon, but that wouldn't satisfy our viewers. That's too easy, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to take Helen Hunt. Okay. Helen Hunt was in As Good as It Gets with Jack Nicholson. Jack Nicholson was in The Departed with Leo DiCaprio. Leo DiCaprio was in a movie called Marvin's Room with Robert De Niro. And Robert De Niro was in a movie called Sleepers.
At what point is this
with Kevin
6
Bacon?
degrees of Robert De Niro?
You know, I'm surprised you didn't go, because now then that you didn't go. Jack Nicholson was in another wonderful, great film, A Few Good Men, with Kevin Bacon.
Ooh,
you remember that
been
one?
Too easy.
Yeah, that would have been too easy.
Andy likes to take the scenic route, and he loves
to sleepers. Yeah, the scenic route to sleepers.
When we loop back around, we got to do sleepers. I think when we loop back the years around. And James, how did you feel about the movie? Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I thought it was good. I mean, like I said, it wasn't really too worried about plot. You know, kind of the story within the story is obviously you've got this couple. You know, Bill and Joe were made for each other, or Bill Paxton. I don't know this. I
think he was Bill in the movie.
He was Bill. Okay. Yeah.
I
Bill
call him Hudson the whole movie.
Hudson, right?
Yeah.
They were made for each other. It was obvious. It's just that, okay, well, they got to chase these storms to like rekindle what is this they had. And we never find out why they got divorced. I mean, or they got separated. So that would have been nice to know. But I mean, they were obviously made for each other, and they both were passionate about the same thing. So it's obvious that they should be together. So that's really what this is about. You know, they're rekindling their romance. You got a lot of great twisters, good CGI. Yeah, it's good. It's like an easy watch, so to speak. I think it was clocking in around 2 hours.
Yeah.
I think it probably could have cut, 30 minutes. I think this would have been a great, if it was like an hour and a half movie, I think it would even be better. But, I'm not going to say it was a plot device, but when they went back to Aunt Meg's and Wakita or Wakiti, whatever it's called, that's when she saw the other replacement for Dorothy.
Right.
I think, so it was almost like a plot device, that whole thing for Meg. And just Meg was fine. Aunt Meg was okay. I mean, obviously they saved her before her house impaled, but maybe the firemen would have gotten there in time. We don't know.
Maybe.
But it was a plot device.
But in any case, this was a great kind of, I remember the 90s. It was a great, like, oh yeah, I remember this time and when this movie was a big deal. Don't know if I'm going to go back and watch it again anytime soon. But
got your fix.
But I enjoyed it, as opposed to other movies we've seen where you go back and you're like, oh, I'm not a fan of this anymore. But this one is I thought it was a fun look back at it. And I am appreciative of getting to watch it again. But that was 1996. We move on, fellas, to 1997, where next week we are going to be chatting all about Boogie Nights. I am very excited about that. And then we go to 1998, where we're going to get into that superhero genre, where we go with Blade, Wesley Snipes classic. Things are going to get interesting there as well. Those are the next couple movies, 1997, 1998, and then, of course, we move on to 1999 after that. But that does it for us. But before we go, James, where can the world follow you and all the things you're working on?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at jshippy2, number 2, and on Instagram at jestshippy2.
And Andy Rossi.
You can find me at just Andy Rossi.
And you can find me at Real Jack Farmer across all social media. That does it for us this week, and we'll see you guys next year.